And if we could survive this past year, we could survive anything. A year ago today was March 12th, 2020. It was a Thursday, and it feels like it was just yesterday. I got up and drove me and my sister to school. I went to English and physics and gym and pre-calc. I sat at the lunch table and ate lunch with my friends, talking about our plans for spring break. After school, I walked to my car and I drove home. I didn't look back. I went home and I packed for the spring break trip I was leaving on the next day. I left on that trip without a second thought. The last day of that trip, I remember posting some dumb picture on my story saying how disappointed I would be if my school didn't cancel classes like other places around the country were doing. That night, they did. They canceled school for a week. All of us seniors felt relieved by the opportunity for a mental break before the rest of our senior year really got underway. In the beginning, it was great. But at the end of that first canceled week, they canceled school again. But all of this was just temporary, right? No one really knew what to do, as they continually canceled school week after week. My friends and I found a parking lot to sit in week after week. Most of the time we ended up in the school parking lot, in front of the building that we never walked into again. On the night that was supposed to be our senior prom, we all sat in that parking lot in our cars. Together, but both physically and emotionally distant. I wish I could say that things got easier, but they didn't. Online school was hard and it only seemed to get harder. We all spent hours sitting in front of our computer trying to do enough work to still graduate, but losing motivation to even do normal daily tasks. Everything became more difficult. I laid in bed for hours, unable to make myself do anything but survive until the next day. Weeks passed and we began to learn more what was going on in the world around us. I began to change my mask more than I changed my clothes. Honestly, a lot of things are hard to remember. It seemed like nothing happened, and yet everything did. Life changed seemingly overnight, and all of us were waiting for the immediate switch back to normal that we were sure was coming. But what even is normal now? I count myself lucky to have had a graduation at all. But in all honesty, I spent much more time crying than I did smiling. Every small stumbling block became a mountain in my path to happiness in this new world. I became lost, and I know many others feel the same. Slowly, I began to spend less time in bed, since the world didn't actually stop, and we still had to keep moving with it. A lot hasn't changed since a year ago, and yet everything is different. How do you catch up with a constantly changing world? You don't. Everything spins around you and you just do your best to hold on. I know that things aren't easy, and I know that they might not be all better for a while, but there are still things to be happy about, and we must not take those for granted. We can't take anything for granted, because we could lose everything overnight, and we never know when the world is going to change again. Today is March 12th, 2021. And if we could survive this past year, we could survive anything.